on the floor, it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So just be aware of that. It might lighten up or it might get much worse. But how many of you know UK went into second lockdown? Was that today? UK locking down again, right? Let's see, Australia, you can't drive beyond 25 miles out of your house, out of the radius of your house. Did you know this? New Zealand, people are being turned into camps. Yeah. Your neighbors are turning you in, right? And Canada is setting up Chinese military bases. It's nuts. It's crazy. So if you think this is ending right now, I'm sorry. But y'all got to stand up to this stuff. We'll talk about that as time goes by. I think hopefully by the time we're done with tonight's class, rather than be doom and gloom, I hope it's kind of doom and bloom, a little bit of doom and boom out there, because you got to get a hold of this stuff. Nobody else is teaching this stuff, just like what we were talking about before the camera turned on. You got to grab a hold of some of this stuff, not just for you, but your kids, your grandkids, your coworkers, even the people you don't like need to know this stuff, okay? 12/7. December 7th, that's Lies Doctors Tell Part 4. That is number 4 in a series of Lies Doctors Tell, Part 1, 2, 3, that we have been gathering from patients. Lies Doctors Tell. What is that all about? Well, it's things that people have actually heard in a doctor's office. And you know, most of them where most of them came from? Nurses. What they've heard patients being told. And other patients in my practice for the last 4 or 5 years, I've kept a running tally. Well, it finally got so big, I said, I got to make a class out of this. And now it's up to the fourth in a series. So go back on YouTube or Facebook and check out Lies Doctors Tell Part 1, 2, 3. You'll be ready for Part 4 on December 7th. And then December 14th, Darkness to Light, that's Part 10. I hope we're not in this nonsense when we get to that point in the year, but you never know. All right, getting right to business. What we will discuss tonight. The triune of health, the 3 forms of stress. We'll talk about the 3 forms of stress. How many of you know there's 3 forms of stress? When you hear about stress, you're only thinking mostly, or you're hearing about the emotional side of stress. But there's chemical stress and structural stress. We'll talk about that. I'll tell you a little personal story about, what my dealings with psychiatric medications and things. Because how many of you know you're in a class tonight about change your mind, change your life. Change your mind, change your life. Because this world that you're living in, there's a lot of things you're not being told, and the answer to all of it seems to be drug everybody, right? Now, I'm not taking anybody off drugs. I'm saying if you want drugs, great. This ain't the place for it, but we're another option for you, okay? We'll talk more about that. I will discuss with you a nearly 70-year-old observation as to the root of all mental conditions. How many of you would like to know that? Say woohoo. Yeah. And I'll talk about Dr. Thomas Saz. He's a Hungarian-born psychiatrist who will give us a little summary on psychiatry, okay? And then we will discuss, have you been indoctrinated? We'll talk about some terminology that you know, that you already use, that you may not even be aware of, that came right out of one of the most sinister sides of medicine. Number 6 thing we'll talk about, this right here. How many of you know what this is? Anybody seen this before? You know what this is, don't you? Anybody else? We're going to pass this around in a little bit. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Diagnoses, of Mental Disorders. You need to know what is in this book. What is in this book affects your life, and I'll tell you how. We'll pass that around in just a minute. And then get that video queued up. And then the big thing, we'll do a big summary at the end. Now, it's 6:20 right now. We should be done by 7:15. We'll get everybody out of here in time to go home and fix a turkey dinner. But know this. Here, let's cover this. Let's cover the scripture right here. Because if you don't know, I mean, we're in kind of a pivotal time, unprecedented time. There's some darkness out there. There's some light out there. Well, this is where we choose to line ourselves up with. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Repeat this with me. Read this with me. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. That's my heart with this tonight. I want you guys to see that you have to break out of the mold and you have to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. There is one particular sect of treachery going on right now in healthcare that seeks to imprison your mind, and this is what we're talking about. Why did we do this right now? Well, last weekend was, Halloween and full moon. And, we planned this because, this time of year, there's just a lot of holiday stress going on and family stress going on. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but we're in the middle of a pandemic, apparently. And there's all kinds of crazy, there's Halloween. And we've got, what's going on tomorrow? There's this big thing going on tomorrow.
Civil War.
Everybody's Civil War?
Begins.
Oh, it begins tomorrow? Oh, yeah. Oh, the election's tomorrow. How could I possibly forget? But I just wanted to, I wanted to cover why we're doing this right now. A lot of people need to know this stuff coming up to the end of the year. We got a video ready for you. I want you to check this out because a lot of people this is the first, this is just a trailer for one of many documentaries. I want you guys to see this. It's 2 minutes long. Check it out. And then we'll discuss. There are many like this. This is just one of them. I just went and found one real quick. Can you fix that?
If I can't get along with my husband, take a drug. If I'm feeling a little depressed, take a drug. We become a fast food.
While Jonathan's fixing that, what I'm trying to say here, let me know when that's ready to rock. Awesome.
My job and my pay was based solely on my ability to push drugs through my territory.
We always did a full frontal assault. So we always came in, our product's the best. Are you gonna write it? Are you gonna write it? You're gonna write scripts?
The bottom line for you was it was a business and you had to get as many prescriptions as you needed. And you did it however you could.
When a patient goes into a psychiatrist's office, probably 98, 99% of people are going to receive a medication.
The psychiatric community is completely responsible for the widespread use of psychotropic drugs.
They don't need to report all their data. They don't need to report all the trials that they do. They only need to report the ones that they want.
They didn't disclose that the researchers, almost every single one of them, had financial relationships with the pharmaceutical companies.
Essentially, the study did not really show Paxil was effective in treating adolescent depression, which is not something we want to publicize.
I was told that drug companies write checks to politicians on both sides of the aisle. Back off. You will not expand this investigation into the drug companies.
The psych meds didn't help me at all. They made matters, I'd say, probably like 10 times worse for me.
Didn't want to live. I didn't have the desire to live.
I began to experience suicidal thoughts. This is really the first time I'm saying something about it.
For the psychiatric drugs, the goal is to have as many people on them as possible.
There are certain executives in the pharmaceutical manufacturers that have stated that one day in America, every person will be on drugs, healthy or not.
That's one of many. Let's just make sure we get that audio fixed for the following video later on, because we're going to show a little longer one later on. We'll have that fixed by then. So that's just called Marketing and Madness. There's a bunch more out there. There's dozens. If you want to know more about some of these documentaries, who made them, what they are, who they're talking about, just understand this.
My name is Guy,
this isn't just a bunch of people that just got together and said, hey, let's trash medicine or let's trash psychiatrists or anything like that. They're interviewing doctors. They're interviewing other psychiatrists. Okay, they're interviewing, much like what we do here. Most of the time, we're just citing what's already out there. It's just not out. It's not on CNN and it's not on Fox News. It's your advertising is paid for by big pharmaceutical companies, so you're not going to see the stuff in the news. But it's readily out there. It's like all the research journals and all the stuff that's out there for other doctors to find. So most of these documentaries, they're talking to former drug sales representatives. They're talking to current and former psychiatrists. So it's all out there. It's just, there's dozens of documentaries. So here's a little disclaimer. What we're talking about tonight is very touchy stuff. It's emotional health, it's mental health. So we are not at all belittling anybody that has anxiety or that has depression or any type of disorder. Okay, we're not trying to belittle. What we're trying to do is expose some things to you that you have not been taught. That's it. If you get offended, it's on you. We're just showing the truth and trying to show people, hey, there might be a better way for you. There are other options. We're just pulling back the curtain and saying, here's the available data. Here's what you've not been told. Here's what the other experts, sometimes within the field, are saying, and here's what you're not being told. And here's some of the proof and the statistics behind it. That's all we're saying. So just know that. And you'll notice a big resounding pattern. None of these drugs cure anybody. What are the drugs' success rates measured by? Anyone? Close. The success rates are dictated by billions of dollars in sales. I'll show you. I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so we're not here to try to denounce anyone if that's the route they choose to go. But there are psychiatrists sounding the alarm, and if this is psychiatry, what about general health? What about general practitioners? What about pediatrics? What about OBGYNs? It all kind of circles around the same tree of pharmakia, if you follow me. So there's no denying that there's occasional stress in people's lives, but the question is, does it mean that one has a mental disorder that has to be diagnosed and treated with a psychotropic poison? That's the question you have to ask yourself. If your kid was diagnosed with XYZ, would you want your kid on a psychotropic drug? Anybody, anybody can answer yes or no, but once we show you what we show you tonight, the answer to that question should be fairly certain. Now, the wellness workshops, like what you're sitting in right now, there are a couple classes where we went into the background and history of psychiatry. I won't get into all of that tonight, but we've taught multiple hours on the background and history of psychiatry. That is a subspecialty within medicine that deals with mental disorders. It deals with brain disorders, or mental disorders, I should say, not really brain. You can go back and watch those on Facebook or YouTube. Those are called, and here's the title. Yes, I know it's provocative. That's why I called it Chemical Imbalance, No Such Thing. How many of you in here have heard that there's chemical imbalances that cause mental problems? Every hand should go up, right? We're going to teach you some stuff tonight that might blow your mind. So you can go back and see chemical imbalance, no such thing. I know there's one. It's about this time of year that I do these classes each year. So 2017, there was one. 2018, there was one. And then last year, around this time, we did one called Land of the Free, Home of the Crazed. And it was more focused on veterans, because I have a soft place in my heart for veterans, and understanding what is going on to our veterans and what's going on in the VA. I have a lot of patients who are VA or ex-VA people. Once they come here, they kind of hop tracks. But our veterans are being murdered. Okay, and it's Land of the Free, Home of the Crazed. That was the one we did in 2019. So 17 and 18 were Chemical Imbalance, No Such Thing. 2019, Land of the Free, Home of the Crazed. Now, there are many other documentaries, like I said, we can get into. If you have more curiosity about this topic, we can get you a lot more stuff. But here's the kicker. Here's the big thing. People think that this is what we do here. People think it's just too easy. And Andrea will hop up in a few minutes and read you some testimonials of people who used to have anxiety, used to have depression, used to have, some of you in this room used to have some pretty heavy-duty psychiatric disorders. I won't say who, and you don't have to stand up or do anything. You can later if you'd like, but people think it's too easy. See? People think this can't work. But you're sitting here in a room full of people. We've got a whole wall full of testimonials out there. If you want to stick around and see the tour later on, we'll show you. People think it's too easy. They want specialists. They want to go to Vanderbilt. They want cameras put down their throat, up their butt. They want blood tests. They want MRIs and CAT scans, even if the MRIs, CAT scans, and blood labs and X-rays and EKGs don't show them anything. They want the specialists. They want the special toys and stuff like that. And here's part of the kicker. They want it because, well, they paid their premiums for their insurance, and I get that. We taught a class a couple weeks ago. Andrea and her husband were here on a panel discussion. Another couple patients were here, panel discussion. They had their baby. Yes. By the way, the other woman was pregnant. And we talked about what exactly is going on in the insurance industry. And here's premiums, deductibles, copays. And here's what you would pay to have a service that you don't want the outcome. You don't want the drugs and surgery, but people do it every day, even though they don't want it. And here's what you would pay, like come in here. That's another class that you might want to check out. That one's called What's Your Life Worth? Yes. So that was like 2 weeks ago. You can check that out. But people think it's really too easy. It's not. It's super easy. We'll discuss at the end of this how you can bypass all of this nonsense. Now, I will pass this around. This is called the DSM. I'll pass this around so you can, pass it around and ignore me while I'm talking. Just kidding. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Funny thing is, there are no statistics in this book. This is what you can look through it. There's no charts, no graphs. There are no numbers. It's just straight up, read a few paragraphs of it. It will show you a list of mental disorders. Every mental disorder that you know of is diagnosed out of this book. Now, this is the DSM 4th edition. This was published in 2000. There's now a DSM 5 that I think came out a year or two ago. I didn't purchase it. Obviously, I have this one. But a whole lot of stuff's changing. Is you think it's getting thinner or thicker? It's like a Chinese phone book, man. It's just getting bigger. All right? A couple little facts about this. There are no statistics in here. I'll let you look at this. This is the Catalog of Mental Illness. It was published first in 1952. This is 1,000 pages easily. Oh yeah, 943 pages. It covers everything from anxiety, depression, stuttering is a mental disorder, addictions are a mental disorder, phobias, spider phobias, snake phobias, mental disorders, nightmares, math disorders, shopping disorders. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be funny. This is a very serious topic. I'm a funny guy, but you can't make this up. You can have disorders for hyposexuality, hypersexuality. You can have disorders for... Funny thing is, I want you to check out this. When I pass this around, I marked 2 pages I'd like you to look at. Here are the classifications. Remember, this is 20 years old. It's 2020. This was published in 2000. So you can just, these few pages here, look at this is a glance over of all the different disorders, just these probably 15 pages right here. Okay, so I marked that page. And then I marked another page I want you all to look at. There's some very interesting stuff in the news nowadays dealing with children and all kinds of stuff. I want you to look at the second bookmark that I put here and tell me why that one belongs in this book. Some of you will get it. We'll pass it around. We'll talk about it at the end. Don't let me forget to circle back to that. So all conditions are labeled as brain diseases, okay? It contains 374 mental disorders. DSM-5 is getting thicker. It determines, now here's the kicker, how does that book dictate your life? It determines your mental fitness. Your right to vote can be removed if you have a mental disorder. Did you know that? Or if you have a psychiatric disorder. It's used to decide child custody battles and discrimination cases. Interesting. This book, it provides court testimony and is used to institutionalize people. So sometimes you'll have a lawyer on the plaintiff's side and a lawyer on the defendant's side, and they're both referencing what book? That one. It's very confusing for people. It can determine if a person is fit to plead guilty in a criminal trial. We'll talk about this later, but what's the term in a court that was never... Say what now?
Incompetent to stand trial.
Incompetent to stand trial. That comes out of here, yes. Also, temporary insanity comes out of here. So this book affects your life. Determines release or parole for those in jail. It can even be used to invalidate a person's will. Do you think this book doesn't matter? This is the book that runs your government. This is the book that runs your church. In a lot of cases. This is a book that runs your school and your daycare in a lot of cases. So we'll talk more about that. We've got a commercial break real quick, and Andrea's going to read some testimonials regarding this is just anxiety and depression, I believe. Yes. All right.
All right. So this person has been a patient for quite a while, but she says, I have had symptoms of anxiety for many years, and I started taking the MinCheck supplement and have noticed a difference. With it, I'm no longer feeling on edge and feel calm throughout the day. I even sleep better at night. And a second person says, with the help of nutrition response testing, or NRT for short, Dr. Brett was able to educate me and get my diet on the right track. We found supplements to help ward off the depression and anxiety. Who knew food could create or mitigate depression? In the span of 4 months, I felt my mind, body, soul, and spirit renewed and strengthened. Yes.
Interesting. Who knew? Oh yeah, we've got a couple of things here. We try not to get too offensive, so bear with us, but we do want a little comic relief. Comic relief can be a little crazy. Of all the things I learned in grade school, trying to avoid cooties was the last one I expected to use later in life. The truth is stranger than fiction. We're living in a crazy time. I almost caught COVID yesterday, but I quickly stood on a social distancing sticker, put an end to that shit. Oh, I'm safe now. Ooh, I'm safe now. See? Stuff's not going anywhere, people. Stuff's not going anywhere. You know?
All right.
I won't even comment on that. I just can't even comment on that. Now, forecast of the top 10 best-selling drugs 2025. This one right here, you've seen advertisements on TV. That's Keytruda. That is projected to break every sales figure of every drug on earth. Eliquis, that's a blood clotting drug. Revlimid, that is a cancer drug. Opdivo, cancer drug. Imbruvica, cancer drug. Humira, rheumatoid arthritis, could be Crohn's, gets off-label for all kinds of crap, fibromyalgia. Biktarvy, that is HIV. Ibrance, that is cancer. Stelara, that's AI, that's an immune suppressant, that's autoimmune disease. And Trulicity, which, by the way, autoimmune, the two evil parents of autoimmunity, you gotta go back and watch that class. When was that? July? That'll explain every autoimmune disease to you. One of the classes we did here, YouTube and Facebook. The evil parents of autoimmunity. Your body is not attacking itself, by the way, people. That's a lie that you've been told as well. But Trulicity, that's diabetes. So here, projected in 5 years, 5 out of the top 10 drugs will be treating you for cancer. How do they know that? They must know what's causing the cancer. How can you project sales of cancer drugs unless you understand that, well, HIV is going to go up, right? Cancer's going up. Blood thinning drugs, of course, those are going to go, because Eliquis is a higher class of, all the blood pressure meds, or all the blood thinning meds. It targets one specific thing rather than 6 or 8, right? You know the commercial. So 5 out of 10 drugs will be cancer drugs. They must plan on you having a ton of cancer. We'll explain this. Next. Of course, top pharma drugs by sales in 2019 in billions. Notice, it's not by how many people got better, and you'll see some of the same drugs here. You'll see some of the same stuff. Xarelto, you see that on TV all day. But this top pharma drugs by sales. They're never measured by who got better or how fast they got better. Come on now. They will measure them by one number, dollars. You need to understand this. If that doesn't tell you everything, it should be very simple. Next. And then here is the topic of our conversation here. 10 most prescribed psychiatric drugs in the U.S. I've got a little white book out here that will walk you through every single side effect of every single psychiatric med. Now, somebody in this room knows somebody on Xanax, because you got 45 million Americans that are on. There's only 330 million Americans as of today. 330. 45, 30, 25, 20, 20, 20. That's how many. You got 120, 30 million Americans on psychiatric medications. You want to know why you can't get anywhere when you go for a drive? 14 million cats on Valium. 15 million on Effexor. 15 million on Seroquel. That's the one I see. That and that. Those are the ones. Oh, and this is all over the place. Oh, those two are all over the place. Never mind. I forgot. Yeah. There's 6 out of those 10 of them that I see on a regular basis. And then Seroquel and Cymbalta, there's 30 million people, right? There's 10% of the population on those 2 drugs. All right? And who knows where this came, how old this is. I think this is 4 or 5 years old. I never hear of this one. Prozac, 20 million. Zoloft, 20 million. Every one of you in this room knows people on these drugs, and you may not even know that they're on these drugs. Period. All right. So since 87, when the first modern antidepressant entered the market, number of people on government disability for mental illness went from 1.25 million to 4 million that was 10 years ago. So when you get put on stuff like this, and you can't have a driver's license, you can't own a gun, you become dependent on Uncle Sam, guess what happens? You become a statistic. I won't get into, I've got a ton of other statistics, but just alone in the history of psychiatry, those classes I told you about before, you want to know why your kids are all diagnosed with ADD and ADHD? Go watch those 2 chemical imbalance, no such thing classes. I won't get into all the stats on kids, but what's happening with kids is absolutely demonic. 100% absolutely out of control what's happening to your kids and your grandkids and your cousins and your nieces and your nephews. It's crazy. So the ADD, ADHD thing, I'll blow holes through that. So here's one thing I want to hit for you real quick. 3 ways people can die. And here, I'll move this right over here. There we go. 3 ways. 3 ways. Structural stress. Chemical stress. If you've been a patient here for long enough, you've seen me. This is in every room. I want you to understand this. Stress is not just a one-trick pony. It's not just emotional stress. Structural stress can be you fall, you break an arm, you get in a car accident. There is stress that occurs to your body that causes something bad to happen. It can be micro-trauma, it can be overuse, it can be a number of things, but you got things breaking down. Just suffice that to say. Structural stress. How about chemical stress? Here's the one everybody misses. Chemical stress is too much bad stuff, not enough good stuff. What's the bad stuff? All the chemicals, the hairsprays, the cleaning products, the cosmetics. What about the stuff that you get in the mail from your Cleveland Utilities? It says, toxic waste disposal day, and it lists medications in there, right next to gasoline and fire extinguishers and batteries. So the chemical stuff, not only a deficiency of good stuff, but an overabundance of the bad stuff. So if you're spraying your thyroid all day long and you're wondering, coating your carotid arteries with poison, and you're breathing your candles and your Febreze and your, what's the other toxic crap? The dryer sheets, Bath Body Works, Victoria's Secret, all the stuff made by the pharmaceutical companies, crying out loud. But the chemical stuff, that's the most overlooked because you're just not aware of it. You're just not, we've all trusted these sources to not poison us when they've been making money right here with you not knowing. Selling you a product that offsets the stuff that they created over on this end. The food, the air, and the water. And we'll get into all that. Why are we giving away a water filtration unit? Now you know. And then here's the emotional stuff. So chemical stuff, we'll just call this, toxins and food, okay? Right there. Injury, damage, car accidents, shark bites, bullet wounds, fist fights, whatever, right here. Toxins and food. And then emotional stress. Foreclosure, divorce, death in the family, I don't know, a bunch of crap on the news that they're jacking up and faking statistics and making everybody scared and turning neighbor against neighbor, so you turn somebody in for not wearing a diaper on your face. That could qualify as emotional stress, could it not? Telling you that all this crap you're wearing on your face works, and all the while, people are getting sick from breathing in polyethylene crap off a mask made in China for a disease that was in China. I'm telling you, it's crazy. You got to wake some people up, and sometimes, in order to wake some people up, you're going to get your feet dirty, So these are the 3 ways that this is called the triune of health. So if you can avoid these 3 stresses, it's not just emotional stress. That's what you've been taught. But if you can avoid those 3 stresses, or if you know somebody who can help you avoid those 3 stresses, right? Your chances of survival in this crazy world just escalated, just went up. So my personal story about this and how I came to understand some of this was it must have been freshman or sophomore year in undergraduate school, college, the first time out of 3. And I lived in Michigan. I grew up in Michigan, and it was crap weather from November through May. I had a couple of good months in the summer. You'd go boating, you'd go to the lake and whatever, you'd have a good time. But from November to May, it was just cold, gray, gloomy. So round about February, you'd feel like putting a gun in your mouth and having a 4th of July picnic. It was nuts. So around about February one year, I finally called my mom and said, Mom, I can't do this. I don't know what's wrong, man. I'm sad. Well, honey, I just saw something on the news, she said. You might have seasonal affective disorder. I said, what's that? My ears perked up. We all want a diagnosis. You know, I'm just like you. We all want to know what's wrong. Seasonal affective disorder, what's that? Well, it's when you have, well, apparently it's when they have gray weather. My mom, I love my mom. Well, apparently it's when they have gray weather and it's gloomy. I heard about it on the news, and you just go to the doctor and get you a pill. When can I go? Went to the doctor, told him a little bit of stuff, 5 minutes, gave me a pill, went home, took it, felt like hell, woke up the next day, threw him down the toilet, and that's it. No way. I will not pull my happiness out of a little orange bottle. And I made a decision that day. I said, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to push through this because I'm not getting dependent on this crap. And somebody in this room needs to hear this. You do not want to be dependent on that stuff when the pharmacy shut down, or when something happens, or when there's a break in supply chains or something like that. You do not want to be on blood pressure meds, psychiatric meds, cholesterol meds, anxiety meds, OBGYN, birth control med. You don't want to be on all this. You don't want to be on 6 meds when it comes time for the world to melt down, because you'll melt down before the world melts down. Okay? So you don't want to be on that side of things. You want to be healthy, you want to be robust, you want to be strong, you want to be up here. I'm not saying there's going to be riots in the streets or anything like that, not around here, but regardless, if you're around somebody who's sick, or if you just go through stress, if you get in a car accident, or if you are or tomorrow you experience, God forbid, some emotional stress, don't you want to be healthier so that you can handle it? When you go in, say you get hit by a car, you're going to go in either having been to a place like this, getting healthier and healthier, boning up your immune system, boning up your musculoskeletal system, being healthy. And then you go in and you get a surgery and you get anesthetic and painkiller and muscle relaxer and antibiotic and IV and anesthetic, all this stuff. What are your chances of recovering being a patient here versus being on 12 medications? Your chances are higher being a patient here, right? That's what I'm saying. So just get ahead of the curve. Get ahead of the curve. Another commercial break right here. Get ahead of the curve.
All right. Speaking of getting ahead of the curve, this person says, I have experienced anxiety most of my life, and the symptoms were severe, causing panic attacks. Recently, the anxiety spiked again, and I lost my appetite and sense of taste. During my last visit, Dr. Brett asked what I was taking differently. I completely forgot I was taking Prevagen for memory. I discontinued the Prevagen and feel so much better, calmer, and able to focus. My appetite is better than it has been in years. That's something that's supposed to be good for you.
Prevagen, what's that come from? Jellyfish. Naturally part of the diet for any human. Natural, right?
That's what I had for breakfast.
Prevagen. Yeah.
I'll share another one.
It's got commercials on TV. It's got commercials in magazines. I mean, everybody thinks it's harmless. Yep.
This person says, I had lived for years dealing with anxiety, stomach and digestive issues, PMS, trouble sleeping, and back pain. I guess just to name a few things. Within a couple months, every single one of these symptoms are gone, all without the use of drugs. Even my anxiety is gone. So you don't have to live with anxiety. You don't have to put up with it. Or the stuff that's not helping it.
Yep. You don't have to live with anxiety, and you don't have to live with the drugs that are not fixing the anxiety. Oh, yeah. It's meme time. I want you to say what you meme, and I want you to meme what you say. You got me on this? A meme. I'll let you explain. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? This kind of goes along with what we're talking about. Chemical, toxins, food. Save those wrappers, folks, so you can look up the chemicals that cause your kids' behavioral problems. You show me a kid with ADD, ADHD, I will show you a crappy pantry, a crappy fridge, and a crappy diet. Period. They are selling you solutions with you not knowing what the cause is. Next. Oh, wait, this one's different. I just love Mel Gibson. And yeah, Braveheart, man, that's one of my favorites. There was another meme a while back that showed, somebody taking freedom from people in the 1300s, and it was like, Braveheart. And then here's people taking their freedom from people in 2020, and it was a bunch of, snowflakes laying on a couch playing video games. I think they were wearing masks or something. Isn't that crazy? Showed a bunch of Braveheart people with spikes and, rah, don't tax our tea. Yeah. Ovary of worm, kidney of dog, blood of calf, embryo of guinea pig, a sprinkle of unborn baby. What potion are we making? Shots. It's too easy for people to understand. It's too easy. Now, if you say something like this in a circle, you're branded a conspiracy theorist. You're branded, you don't know what you're talking about. I've studied this topic for half my life. Okay? I've never met anybody who was on the other side of the fence that wasn't first very supportive of shots. I have people in this practice who are vaccine damaged. I have people in this practice who know people who were, most of them are in the medical field. Most of my patients are from the medical field. What does that tell you? That should give you cause to pause, as I call it, and let you think about, why would nurses and doctors and dentists and respiratory therapists and pharmacists, why would they come here? Why would they bring their kids and their dogs and their cats? Why would they come here? Because something is not working in the system that you're paying entrance into. All right. Next, number 3, Weston A. Price. Weston A. Price was a very, he was a titan of nutrition, along with Royal Lee, along with Francis Pottinger, along with Melvin Page. See, these are names that nobody in this room probably knows unless you've been a patient here, because they're the titans of nutrition. They are not pharmaceutical companies. So these guys were back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right when everything had happened with the industrial food preparation of World War I, and people started realizing, like, there are some serious nutritional deficiencies that are going to be happening in the near future when we remove organ meats and glands from the diet, and when we remove, when we start processing everything with chemicals and preservatives to transport it overseas. So those were 4 or 5 of the guys I'm talking about that were absolute nutritional pioneers, and you'll never hear their name. They're not taught in nutrition classes in college or anything like that, because just like with me, who were my nutrition books published by in college? Pfizer. Yep, the world's largest pharmaceutical corporation. So Weston A. Price and his book, and a small synopsis will cover, of Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. It's a book. I have it here. You can borrow it. It's called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. It is a masterpiece. And what he did was he traveled the world, and he found indigenous populations of tribal and primitive people who did not have access to man-made foods. They didn't have access to, enriched breads and flours and alcohols and sugars and pops and candies. What he found was, well, what do you think he found? Did he find healthy people or sick people? Very healthy people. The way people lived for 6,000 years? Very healthy people. Very healthy people. What he found was no cavities, no deformities. What he found was no cancers, no reproductive problems. It was interesting. And he cataloged it all with these things called pictures that nobody can discount. It was beautiful. Still to this day, you get people saying it's a conspiracy. It's crazy. So Weston A. Price has this to say about mental and moral degeneration. I will read it to you because this is a big deal. Get this. After one has lived among, I told you that story to tell you a little bit about what this first sentence means, because he lived with these people for a long time and recorded what they ate, recorded what they did. After one has lived among the primitive racial stocks and studied them in their isolation, few impressions can be more vivid than that of the absence of prisons and asylums. Is there no gasp from the crowd there? At least go, oh, there it is. Prisons and asylums. Few, if any, of the problems which confront modern civilization are more serious and disturbing than the progressive increase in the percentage of individuals with unsocial traits and lack of responsibility. He traveled the world and saw all these civilizations, and 2 things were missing. Kind of like me, I noticed some things. Sometimes I'll notice what's missing before I'll notice what's present. Kind of like when you're reading the Bible, you're reading, why does it not say this and this and this? Always look at the other side, He noticed it was, all these primitive peoples had no prisons, they had no asylums. What does that tell you about our, I looked on the internet today, there were 20 psychiatric facilities around Cleveland. 20. Just today, just out of curiosity, I thought, I'll just type in psychiatry Cleveland. 20 places. 20. There's more psychiatry places than schools. So, Dr. Royal Lee, another guy I'm telling you about. Recent publicity regarding mental disease, which is rapidly becoming our #1 health problem, reflects the truth in Dr. Price's observation. That was Royal Lee in 1958. 60 years ago, just to give you an idea of how crazy that was. Now, let's watch psychiatry. This movie, this is about a 3-minute clip. It's Dr. Thomas Saz. He's a Hungarian-born psychiatrist, and I want you to listen to what he says. This is some stuff that you're probably never going to hear. You got this queued up? Let's get this going here. Some stuff you're probably never going to hear. He's been a psychiatrist for probably, at this point, 60 years. He died in 2012. Just check this out.
You have to have a term in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual in order to then call it a disease and treat it as a disease and write a prescription for it. When I went to medical school, there were only 6 or 7 items in the manual. Now there are over 300. I mean, you mean to tell me that there have been 294 diseases discovered in the last 60 years? In psychiatry alone? It's a joke. It's an epidemic of psychiatry that we are dealing with. We don't have an epidemic of mental illness, we have an epidemic of psychiatry. You eat too much, it's a disease, it's an addiction. You smoke too much, it's a disease. You are too unhappy, it's a disease. You're too thin, it's a disease. You're too fat, it's a disease. You have too little sex, it's a disease. You have too much sex, it's a disease. No free will, it's all chemicals. No self-discipline, no self-control. The chemical imbalance meshes very well with the idea that you give a drug which restores the balance. It's a story, a mythology, a fable, and that's a baseline from which we're operating now in America. The child doesn't perform the way he should or behaves he should, he is not responsible. Some chemical will give him a chemical. You hear day in and day out on television that this is a mental illness and that's a mental illness, and Zoloft is advertised. Beer you can't advertise, but Zoloft you can advertise. Now it's not just psychiatry, it's a whole psychiatrization of the culture. Now what's more toxic, Zoloft or beer? Amen. Case closed. See, the internal contradiction in these very concepts is so total that they don't stand up to any scrutiny. Nobody has yet measured, demonstrated, or created a test to show that somebody has a chemical imbalance in their brain. Period. Psychiatrists are getting more and further and further and further away from this human-to-human touch. And they are becoming more and more quacks, where they talk and act and impersonate doctors. They talk about diagnoses and treatments and the brain and all this kind of stuff about which they know nothing. Zero. It's not science, it's politics and economics. That's what psychiatry is, politics and economics. Behavior control. It is not science, it is not medicine. This is so big that it boggles the mind.
The mind. What is he referring to right there? What is he referring to? This is so big it boggles the mind. It is so entrenched in your schools, your churches, your military, your boardrooms, your business, your government. This is so big it boggles the mind. What were the 2 things? What are a couple things that he said that stuck out that you heard that blew you away? Anything? Did he say anything about chemical imbalance?
There's no test to measure it.
No provable test to measure a chemical imbalance. We've all heard this our entire lives, right? What about hormonal imbalance? See, it doesn't just stop with chemical imbalance. Remember that. What about hormonal imbalance? I remember growing up as a kid, you'd see somebody, they were a little bit overweight or something, and say, oh, she's got a hormonal imbalance. Okay, well, how do you fix the hormonal imbalance? How were you taught to fix the hormonal imbalance? Take estrogen. Take more, where's the estrogen coming from? Where'd they get the estrogen?
Mare's urine. I don't take that. I take natural.
That's true.
It's true. It is true.
Mare urine, that's what Premarin is. Premarin, pregnant mare urine. That's where the name Premarin came from. You can't make this up. Right? So where are they getting, so how are you fixing a chemical imbalance in the brain? You're giving them a chemical which what? Creates what? A chemical imbalance. Right? Neurotransmitters in your brain, you're told it's serotonin, it's dopamine, it's melatonin, it's this and that. Where does all of that come from? This can blow your mind. Where do all your neurotransmitters come from? The one thing you've been told is not therapeutic. Your Food and Drug Administration teaches you that food is not therapeutic to the human body and cannot fix a disease. That's what you've been taught. That's what Frito-Lay taught you. That's what Kellogg's taught you. That's what General Mills and Post and Little Debbie taught you. And we're paying the price for it every day. So that was a big, heavy hitter right there in the field of psychiatry, breaking it down for you in a 3-minute video. Now, many terms have entered your vocabulary from psychiatry. Let's check this out. Tell me if you've ever heard of any of this. I have social anxiety. You ever heard anybody say that? That's in that book. Where's that book? That's in that book, right? It's a very common thing to hear today regarding crowded places. You just don't like being around people. That's a mental disorder, according to that. Kleptomaniacs, where'd that term come from? That book. Kleptomaniacs. People who steal things. Oh, he's a total klepto. Don't loan him $5. He's a klepto. Where did all this terminology come in our language? Like, we've all been indoctrinated. I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm saying, let's open all of our eyes, right? Going postal, where'd that come from? You ever heard that term? Remember back in the 90s, people were going crazy, shooting each other up at the office. Somebody'd walk in and take a gun and mow down 30 people at an office. This happened all day during the 80s and 90s. The term going postal became all the rage. Ha, no pun intended. Came from shootings of postal workers and office violence in the 1990s, 80s and 90s, right? Oh, I'm so anxious. You'll hear people say this all the time. Anxious people have general anxiety. General anxiety is in that book. Anxiety, really, what anxiety is, you just need to breathe. Anxiety is lack of oxygen. I could talk a whole class just on breathing, just on how people suck at breathing. I had a panic attack. Panic disorders are commonly referenced in society, right? Oh, I just totally had a panic attack. What caused the panic attack? What caused the panic? The panic attack just didn't fall out of the sky. Something's happening. In most cases, what is it? Too much of this or not enough that. And you will have a panic attack, or you will have a little pectoris angina, and you'll run off to the hospital, and they'll do a chest, if you have shortness of breath or anything like that, they will do a chest x-ray, and you'll get a steroid or an inhaler. That's just standard operating procedure. If you have chest, shortness of breath, SOB, or if you have chest pain, right? I had a panic attack. Panic attack, anxiety, all that stuff. What are your neurotransmitters made out of again? Food. But what if you have a bunch of toxins jamming up your neurotransmitters, right? All your neurotransmitters are amino acids. Amino acids come from protein. Protein comes from food. Erectile dysfunction is a mental disorder. So is enuresis, or sometimes referred to as nocturnal enuresis, which means bedwetting at night. Erectile dysfunction is in that book. You want to be diagnosed with erectile dysfunction, taking Viagra? You sure? What if they take away your right to vote? What if they take away your right to have a gun? What if they take away your kids? It's all possible. I mean, that book right there, Court of Law. Dementia, where does that come from? That is a psychiatric diagnosis. Let's go next slide here. I'm just showing you how pervasive this is, ubiquitous, everywhere. Narcolepsy and insomnia are sleep disorders. So, disorder means it's in that book. Okay? Narcolepsy, sleep disorder. Sometimes, narcolepsy and sleep disorder, if you got something affecting the brain, it can be anything. It can be your food, it can be your toxins, it can be your hair dye seeping into your skull. I'm not looking at you. Seeping into your skull. How many people know that anything you do, if you're bleaching your hair, anything, it can seep into your bloodstream. It goes right into your scalp, doesn't it? So gender identity disorders are a burgeoning category now. Notice, in that book, there are only 5 or 6. In DSM-5, well, I don't know. I wonder how many sexual and gender identity disorders there are, because how many genders are there now? 114? Over 100 genders are now documented. I hate to tell you. That's what I don't want to spend my money on DSM-5, but I'd love to see what's happened with how many of you saw the second bookmark in that book? How many of you noticed? It's called the disorder in that book, isn't it? But now it's commonplace. Depressed people can have acute or chronic depression, just depends, right? Eating disorders, grade school, high school, I'd never heard of this until I went to high school. Anorexia, bulimia, they're widely known, eating disorders. But what are eating disorders? Can be this, right? But this is your list of options, right? Could this be a big part of it? Huge part of it. You hear people say my OCD kicked in after the birthday party. They want to clean stuff up. Well, now being clean and organized is a mental disorder. Sorry, what were you saying? ADD, ADHD kids have energy, lack of focus. Like I said, you show me an ADD kid, I will show you too much crap in the diet. So no wonder they can't pay attention. But then you put them on a neurostimulatory. They can't pay attention, they're out of their minds, right? So you put them on something to stimulate them. Tell me does that make sense? You'll get that 5 minutes. Postpartum depression happens after pregnancy. What happens during pregnancy? Your food is used to make what? An entire new being. So where did all your vitamins, minerals, where did all your nutrients go? Right? So now might you have a lack if you're not, but most people go on prenatals, which are pharmaceuticals.
And you're told to just follow your every pregnancy craving.
Yep. Yeah. What are food cravings? Your body is seeking nutrients. It wakes you up at 3 a.m. to go downstairs and eat that little bit of something that might have some vitamin A in it because your body's dying for vitamin A. That's what a food craving is. Your body is not stupid, okay? You've been told it is, and I know, I get it. But postpartum depression, what if you didn't have postpartum depression? Did you have postpartum depression?
First time.
Yeah. Second or third time. Third time you were here. No, I hear it all day. How many of you have heard this? She's totally bipolar. What does that mean? She's up and down, up and down. It used to be called manic depression. It used to be called manic, your way up, depression, your way down. Well, now they've got mania, and now they've got depression, so they had to split it, come up with a new name, voted on by a show of hands, not by statistical literature and stuff, voted on. All those diseases are voted on. You'll learn more about that here in a minute. That can be derogatory for those who go up and down frequently. That can be a derogatory term, right? What else we got? It just keeps going. How many? Yeah. Next one, please. Sugar? Oh, sugar. You show me a bipolar person. I'll show you some crappy diets. See, in the 60s in the medical books, they emptied asylums by changing diets. You ever seen the Wellville, the movie about J.W. Kellogg in Battle Creek, Michigan? The founder of Kellogg's? He had an asylum on the property. He was Seventh-day Adventist, and he had an asylum on the property. And I won't get into it right now. We could teach a whole class. But there was a movie called The Road to Wellville, and it was all about... My mom retired from Kellogg's, so I grew up eating the crappiest food on earth. I had crappy teeth, crappy skin, crappy face, crappy everything. I know, imagine, right? It's impossible to imagine. But... But my mom worked at Kellogg's headquarters, which was in Battle Creek, Michigan, so I, of course, knew who J.W. Kellogg was, right? So when this movie came out, Road to Wellville, I was like, that's what he did? I had no idea. No idea. No idea. I won't get into it right now. But numerous learning disorders give rise to developmental learning programs. How many people do you know are having to teach the effects, are having to babysit or manage the effects of all of these disorders in a classroom with 20 or 30 of them all at once, all on different meds? I have teachers in this practice. Say what?
That would make you crazy.
Oh, that will make you, the crazy little, that'll make you crazy. Absolutely. And then husband is wondering why wife is coming home pulling her hair out. See, it just affects all of you. And you've been told it doesn't. I have PTSD. No, PTSD. You should watch the Home of the Free, Land of the Crazed. Land of the Free, Home of the Crazed. If you're a vet or you know somebody who's a vet who wants a little bit of understanding about Gulf War syndrome and all the stuff that's happening with the vets, the PTSD is very different. You grow up in the hood and, in a gang, or you were pinned down by, enemy fire in the deserts of the Middle East somewhere. They're very different. Same disease. See, and most of the vets who are killing themselves never deployed, never saw combat. So why are they killing themselves? Watch that class, that'll tell you. My dog has separation anxiety, or a person has separation. How many of you have heard this? I mean, this is real stuff in your language, in our vernacular, in our colloquialisms. We just pick this up. We absorb it. It's like growing up when you talk to that, older upperclassman, I don't believe in organized religion. And you're like, yeah, I like that phrase. That sounds smart. I think I'll use that. And we learn these phrases and we learn these things without ever thinking about where they came from, right? My dog has separation anxiety. If you miss someone, you've got an attachment disorder. Innocent by reason of temporary insanity. Has been cited in court cases. See, that book set into precedent a lot of stuff back in the second and third and fourth. See, big groups of psychiatrists got together and voted on these diseases, voted on these disorders. Here's some other disorders from there that will blow your mind, that this is how it ended up in your vocabulary. Adverse drug effects disorder. I just put in there for, it's unbelievable, right? Jet lag. How many of you know jet lag is a disorder? Where did the term jet lag come from? That book. Caffeine addiction disorder, internet addiction disorder, binge eating disorder, right? That's where the term binge watching Netflix came from, okay? Disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, or DMDD, you used to call that temper tantrums back when you could spank your kids. And then right here, your favorite P word is rather pervasive topic in some circles because there's some laptops floating around now and there's some big stuff going on in the hallowed halls of higher, very, very, very evil people out there doing some very crazy stuff that's been around for centuries, thousands of years, that's just now bubbling to the surface of what's happening in our news.
But by making pedophilia a mental disorder, are put in asylums.
Oh, sure. Sure. And there's another reason why and then they get caught and then they get released. Yeah, she said by making it a mental disorder, that's how they get treated and they end up not going to jail, basically is what you said, right?
I just came from California and we have a mental system for sex offenders.
You have a whole mental, say that again.
I've been in California 35 years.
It's on. You're not going to hear anything. Just speak into the microphone.
We have a whole state hospital that is just for sex offenders. And so, but we still got the pedophiles in the other state hospitals because I worked in a maximum security state hospital for the criminally insane.
You worked at a maximum security for criminally insane.
Mm-hmm. It's the only maximum state hospital in California.
Wow.
So the pedophile, I'm glad they've made it a disorder because it gets them off the street now. It takes them to a hospital facility and they might be there the rest of their lives. They're not so, they don't just get of course, in California you get a steep prison sentence. One of my patients who I had seen forever,
well, go ahead, keep speaking.
We went to court with him and we'd given him all kinds of tests and things like that. And he was doing really well. And he got 6 years.
Then what? No idea?
Probably out.
Yeah.
But that's when I was in private practice. When they're in the state hospital, they don't get out quickly.
Wasn't it California that just lowered the age of consent? Was it California?
I'm not sure, but it's been 14.
Who knows? Somebody knows. That just happened recently. Lowered the age of consent to with children to like 12 or 13. You said it was 14 before? Wow, interesting. Crazy, huh? No pun intended. I didn't mean that. It is crazy. It is crazy. You know what? Call it what it is. It's crazy. All right, next one. Oh, commercial break. Here we go. Yeah, turn that one back. We'll come back to that one. We'll do a commercial break. That
All
one's
right.
funny. That one's funny.
So this person says, for more than 6 years, I've had pain in my stomach and inflammation in my body. Dr. Brett has taught me how to eat the right things. I had been going through a depression for about 6 years, and I would be emotional all the time, and I had always heard that emotions come from the gut. I am a believer now. No more crying. I have positive thinking now that I can do this. Can I share one more?
Sure. Go for
Okay,
it.
awesome. So this person says, I also felt very anxious, depressed, and overly tired. I lived as a vegetarian. I did that too. But I felt I had become malnourished because of poor diet maintenance. My energy is up. My spirits are much higher. Very little depression follows me now. And my diet is completely different. I am forever grateful for Dr. Brett and the Divine Design team.
Yay. Like I said earlier, it's just too easy, you know. That food could fix it. That supplements could fix it. These aren't supplements from Walmart and Rite Aid and Costco. These are supplements that you've never heard of. You've never seen them. It's a company that's been around 100 years. A couple companies, actually. We have 10 or 15, maybe 20 vendors. But the main stuff comes from, you know, a company. The whole process comes from, you know, a 100-year-old process. 90 years. They've been in business 90 years. So it's too easy that it would be whole food, plants and animals. It would be liquids. It would be herbs. It would be plants that came out of the earth. It's too easy. People don't want easy. They want complicated. They want complex. They want, you know, tax code books, and they want crazy investment strategies, and they want these very long, tedious routes that are not simple. So they want specialists and stuff. Sometimes it's just too easy for people. 6 years of depression, that second one was? 6 years of depression. I can't imagine. Now, huh? Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me. These memes. Meme what you say. Say what you meme. Go back to the Simon Cowell one. What was that one? When people realize that this second wave is actually bacterial pneumonia from people wearing masks. I've been following this since day one, folks. I've been listening to the top people on the planet, the epidemiologists, the virologists, the immunologists. I haven't been watching CNN. I've been traveling and listening and speaking and hearing and watching other doctors and other professionals get censored and removed from social media, preaching just simplicity, the simplicity of don't breathe your own vapor back in and don't suck the germs back in that you just breathed. It's so simple. See, people they want complex. They want lockdowns, shutdowns, and, you know, rules over your Thanksgiving. Because it will make you, you know, people will make you feel bad for not wearing a mask if you go somewhere. Let them make you feel bad. Who cares? Get over it.
People want complicated because it feels like they're more in control.
It feels like they're doing something. It feels like they're saving somebody's life by wearing a diaper on their face. It's drama. It's the need for drama. And I'm not, you know, pointing a finger at anybody else. I mean, I've been there too. But at some point, you have to live in fear or faith. Okay? This is a funny one. I had to put that in there. I'm not a beer drinker in any way, shape, or form. Open a can of beer, try to smell it. If you can smell the beer, drink it to see if you can taste it. If you can taste it and smell it, this confirms you do not have the COVID. Last night, I put this in there for a reason. Because, test again, because this morning I woke up with a headache and feel like I'm coming down to something. See, everything's being diagnosed. The flu went away.
Yeah.
You ever notice? Dying of old age went away. They've planted a seed that see, look at this. This is so mental, it's so spiritual, it's so everything. They've planted a seed in your mind that even though you're healthy, you're sick. It's crazy.
That one should have said, open a can of Corona.
Yeah. Oh, we know where your mind is. That's hilarious. They should have said that. But see, making healthy people act like they're sick will eventually make healthy people be sick. Uh-oh. Wow. So I'm so nervous. So now he would have anxiety. Yep, mental disorder. Next slide. Or I think that might be it. Is that it? All right, let's roll this video. We're almost done. I just want you to see, this is a little bit longer video, but this is a montage of other doctors, other psychiatrists, other, keep hold of lights. There's a thing behind the door right there, so everybody can see this. Other doctors. Is that easier to see or worse? I think it's better. Yeah. Yep. So this is a little bit longer, but this other doctors, psychiatrists, drug reps telling you what's up.
I was diagnosed with a chemical imbalance, manic depression.
They diagnosed me with having ADD.
He told me I had conduct disorder,
ADHD,
mild depression,
Major depression.
manic depressive,
Borderline personality disorder.
Compulsive
social
disorder.
anxiety, depression, and schizophrenia.
ADHD.
Sleep disorder, identity problem disorder.
But all of these so-called diseases are just made up. They're just fabricated. They're fictions of psychiatry imagination.
What would psychiatrists do without their labels? They couldn't pretend to be real doctors anymore, you know? Neither could psychologists, you know? Diagnosing, what a godlike thing to do. Making diagnoses. And here's your treatment, a pill. Because so far they're not proving that any so-called mental illnesses exist. These are labels, and that's all they are.
But without proof, you can't have credibility. So psychiatrists manufacture their own.
It's based on a grab bag of checklists for disorders that are published in a book called the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. There are no statistics in this book, by the way. That just makes it sound more scientific.
They create this cluster of disease, and they get together and they vote. Is this a disease? All in favor, say aye.
The American Psychiatric Association is the publisher and owner and wealthy owner of DSM. They've made a great deal of money on DSM.
Since the first edition of the DSM, the number of mental disorders voted into psychiatry's diagnostic manual has grown to 374. And with each new disorder, psychiatrists create yet another way to defraud the public.
If you have 27 ways to bill in the DSM, that's 27 ways to bill. If you have 300, that's 300 ways to bill. So you can pretty much find anyone walking on the street that could fit into a DSM somehow.
When you build insurance companies, you can't say the word. You've got to send a number. And they have numbers for the most ridiculous things. You know, like arguing with your mother or peeing in the bed.
Adolescent rebellion disorder is an official psychiatric diagnosis. Arithmetic learning disorder is an official psychiatric diagnosis. General anxiety disorder is a recent diagnosis.
The psychiatric industry takes advantage of that. They say, wow, we can get these things categorized, make it look scientific, so let's label everything. Now we have a label for it. We can put a coding. If you've ever seen a medical insurance form, everything has a code.
In DSM, it just looks like sort of some magical numbers. Of course, what we're talking about is reimbursement for mental health treatment as an illness.
The more types of codings, the more types of illnesses you can come up with, the more claims can be paid, and the more reasons for treatment, and the more reasons for revenue for the psychiatric establishment, for the hospitals, and of course, the pharmaceutical companies.
Incredibly enough, while presenting the DSM to the world as scientific fact, psychiatrists freely admit its utter lack of science.
We have no diagnostic reliable markers for almost any illness there is in the DSM.
What we're testing for in psychiatry, it's hard to say because there's nothing specifically.
But as far as a test that's clinically useful, basically we're not there yet.
We don't have any laboratory tests that we can use to determine whether somebody does or doesn't have a mental illness.
There are no good biological tests for detecting mental illness.
There is no test, there's no biopsy you can do.
There is no chemical test right now.
There are no specific tests
to confirm the diagnosis or show the improvement, like any blood tests or any x-rays or anything like that?
Oh, in my practice, I don't do any tests. I just speak with people and listen to them, and then I make a decision in what kind of illness.
These diagnoses vary as widely as the psychiatrists who make them. In this hidden camera footage, a person visited several different psychiatrists complaining of the same symptoms.
I'm extremely unorganized, and I didn't used to be. It's caused problems in the family. It's caused problems getting, I'm self-employed.
You've got ADD, ADHD, and you're depressed, and your depression is bipolar depressed.
You have a brain chemistry disorder, and it's probably genetic.
You have a lot of the symptoms of depression.
So it seems like it is a mixed picture. What that means is like we got some depressive symptoms and some, high symptoms.
If you're bipolar, I'll need to give you a mood stabilizer. We don't know. I kind of doubt it.
It's considered low-grade bipolar.
You are more of the ADD than ADHD.
And as far as medications for depression, because I would recommend that you start a medication, which are Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil, Celexa.
Usually Focalin XR is pretty good.
They'll give you some Lexapro in the morning and some trazodone at night.
Lamictal is a better medication for that. It works on your depression also.
But the treatment for any bipolar cycling is the same. The lithium.
Remeron is another one.
Trazodone.
Tegretol.
Depakote. Wellbutrin.
Lexapro.
Lamictal.
Equitroid.
Depakote.
Lithium.
Ambien.
You may need an antidepressant also with your Lamictal.
We don't know if I give you a medication if it is going to work or not.
To a certain degree, it's trial and error.
You never know if it's the right drug.
How many people have I cured? Well, there are no real cures right now in psychiatry.
I have cured none of my patients.
We're always challenged by our lack of knowledge.
In fact, we don't know what the causes of mental illness are.
Most mental illnesses, we do not know the cause.
Of course, it would be nice to know exact reasons of disorders, but maybe in the future.
I'm the Director of Research at the American Psychiatric Association. We don't know the etiology of really any of the mental disorders at the present time.
DSM-5 is coming out. It's grown to 10 times its original size, and it labels everybody. I could find 5 diagnoses that would fit you or anybody else.
Compare this to the research methods of pathology, a real science that discovers real diseases using a wide variety of precise diagnostic tests.
We do millions of laboratory tests as well as the structural examination and the microscopic examination. It's a whole series of applied scientific procedures. In the case of psychiatry, there isn't any laboratory tool that can precisely identify psychiatric disease and allow it to be classified.
It's not as if there's some study of tissue or some study of the body or some study of matter. These are all categories which are made up. They're simply made up. They don't exist in nature. They're decided upon by psychiatrists and voted on.
Psychiatrists are not the only ones who benefit from the DSM. Wherever you find a psychiatric diagnosis, you'll find a psychiatric drug.
The pharmaceutical corporations now contribute enormous sums of money for the education of psychiatric residents and for the support of research by their professors, so that psychiatry today has become in America, has become very largely learning of which drug to use with which disease or disorder.
This to me is completely unethical, untenable, unacceptable for this to occur. The web of money is all over the place. It has compromised psychiatry, and now it's compromising psychology, and worst of all, it's compromising the patients.
In 2006, a study revealed that 56% of all psychiatrists deciding what disorders to list in the next DSM had financial ties to at least one drug company. Today, we see the consequences: a barrage of drugs, each one targeted at an invented disorder that is backed by an arbitrary diagnosis found in the DSM.
The fact that it is couched in the language of science without necessarily having any of the scientific data or underpinnings to justify it is as threatening as anything we've seen to date.
And psychiatry's latest and most expensive ploy to fool the public by imitating legitimate medicine? Brain scans.
We can scan all the brains we want to. The fact that we see changes in different people's brains, changes in functioning, doesn't mean that we've discovered anything that has its origin in the brain. It just means that we're seeing changes, but it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the brain.
They have no reliable measures about precise blood flow patterns for any of the psychiatric disorders using any of the scans.
It's marketing. This is marketing. This is not science. This is incredibly effective marketing. It has nothing to do with science.
Psychiatrists and psychologists use the DSM to label 450 million people worldwide as mentally ill. A total equal to the populations of France, Italy, Germany, Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, and Russia combined. While sales of the psychiatric drugs they push have topped $80 billion annually, funding from world governments for these patients gross psychiatry over $250 billion a year. And much of this money comes from the diagnosis and drugging of our most trusting and vulnerable.
Makes you feel good, doesn't it? All right, in summary, so you saw right there, and the gentleman that said, you know, it's couched in the language of science. What you're hearing on TV right now and through the mainstream Mockingbird media, that's couched in the language of science. See, this is psychiatry. I mean, you want to get into shots and you want to understand like the rest of the drugs and the rest of the, I can't say the word because I'd be censored. See? There's AI out there listening. So there's certain words you can't say now or you'll be pulled. So this is just psychiatry. You want to know about your blood pressure meds? You want to know about your shots for the little ones? You want to know about your flu, you know, your flu shots? I mean, it just goes on and on. But see, it's too easy for people. It's way too easy for people to understand that if it's a toxin outside the body, it doesn't magically become good for you once you pump it in the body. If you look at the ingredients of some of these things, it would blow your mind. And you'd be in prison if you tried to feed it to a little girl. You know, you'd be in prison. But you put it in a vein and it's automatically okay. See, so let this be a fence for you to jump over that will help you to get to the next thing and understand, wait. Maybe health is not what you've been taught. Maybe we've all been lied to. Maybe we've all been hosed. Maybe we just need to turn up the heat and figure out, you know, what's the truth behind some of this stuff. It's getting more and more difficult. Understand, they're controlling what you're seeing through your search engines. Okay? They're finishing the sentence for you. It's getting more and more hard. I'm telling you, we live in a day and age. This is the great delusion. I mean, I'm convinced. I'm absolutely convinced. No one knows what's true, but you know what's true. You know right here. You know right here that all these psychiatrists talking, we don't have a definitive test, we don't have this, we don't know the etiology, we don't know the beginning of it, we don't know how to fix it. You know right here, from all the people you've seen, I know you're fighting right here in your mind. You're going, no, how can this be true? How can that be true? How many people have you known that ever got healed? Out of the hundreds and thousands of people that you've known in your life that have been on Lexapro and Xanax and Zoloft, were they better off after or were they worse off after? So you know it right here. Even if you don't want to believe what I'm saying is true, you know it right here. Your spirit knows it's true. Just like you'll figure it out when you look at the shots or you look at the blood pressure meds or you look at the food or you look at the candy or you look at the GMOs or you look at the chemtrails or you look at the, you know, the fluoride in the water. Same thing. Same companies doing it all. And you'll wake up and you'll go, huh. Summary. The obviously obvious observations. Here we go. So what do we learn from this? That there is no laboratory test that exists for any chemical imbalance. Period. End of story. End of story. The reason that everybody's getting poisoned with their thyroid and poisoned with their hormones because there are blood tests that can determine a lack of estrogen or a lack of TSH. So that's why so many people are getting swamped with Synthroid. That's why so many people are getting swamped with estrogen and Premarin, right? Save questions for just a minute. In psychiatry, review. In psychiatry, no cause is known, no cure exists. With psychiatric diagnoses, I wanted to, summarize this. Your right to own a firearm can be taken away. Just FYI. And your right to vote. Hey, tomorrow's election day. So if you want to carry a firearm on election day, don't be taking psych meds. Insurance costs for genetic chemical imbalance surpass medical costs. Do you understand what that means? There are more people getting drugged, and your premiums, deductibles, copays, and coinsurance are paying for that than medical bills. Well, what am I going to do about little Johnny? He's got to have his ADD meds. Does he? You tell me. Correct? All right? Insurance costs for genetic chemical imbalance. It doesn't exist. I'll just say this. I'll leave it here. Elvis, Whitney Houston, Prince, Michael Jackson, etc., 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 etc. The list never ends. Amy Winehouse, check. Kurt Cobain, check. Name a famous person that died in the last little while other than Sean Connery. Well, he was probably... Look back and see. It's a challenge to yourself. Look back and see. What were they on? Also, school shooters. You will not find a school shooting that is not linked to psychiatric medications. You will not find it. No more drunk driving. You ever notice that? You don't hear anything. There's no more MAD. There's no more MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. There's no more SAD, Students Against Drunk Driving. There's no more drunk driving commercials or billboards on the highway. Hadn't been for 20 years. Where you been? Why? Because little old lady sitting next to you at a stoplight's higher than a kite. She's higher than Dave Chappelle sitting next to the stoplight. She's on 4 psych meds, 5 blood pressure meds, and she is feeling... She doesn't know what street she's on. So she doesn't care about you, okay? So it ain't about drunk driving anymore. It's about drug driving. That's a term, drug driving. Have you seen the signs on the highway? Suspect drug driving, dial *51 or whatever it is. You ever seen these? Big cities have them everywhere. No? You'll see them now that I mention it. Preemptive drugging based on prediction of pre-psychotic disorders in kids. In other words, you go online, you take a questionnaire online, and it will spit out what problem you have. A preemptive drugging based on prediction of pre-psychotic problems in kids. Amazon and Google got linked up with this just recently. I forget the service, but you can take a service that tells you which drug you will eventually end up on. More AI coming down your throat, right? Schools, governments, courts, media, churches, and military, give me that book, have all been infiltrated. You want to know where I got this book? Somebody take a guess where I bought this.
In a bookstore.
A church bookstore.
Oh.
A Christian bookstore that supplies all the books to Lee University. Don't tell me it's not in your church. Your pastor is probably on psych meds. U.S. healthcare, despite imaging, drugs, shots, and surgeries, is continually what? Getting better or failing miserably? Failing miserably. So, media ads for the latest miracle drug continue unabated. Right? So the obviously obvious observations, right? So what are you going to do about it? Well, this kid just spit a bunch of doom and gloom for the last hour and a half. Well, no, here's the key. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It depends on how you look at it. Look at how awake you are now than you were when you walked in here an hour and a half ago. You thought this was just going to be on, what B vitamins to take on, if you've got some anxiety and some depression, didn't you? No, we teach people around here. We teach people. All those testimonials right there, Andrea, all those testimonials were on one sheet. Anxiety sheet. All those testimonials you heard were from one testimonial sheet of 100 testimonial sheets we have out there on the wall, the victory wall. So we just picked the anxiety sheet right out of and said, oh, there's our testimonials for tonight. So all the other stuff out there, go check out the testimonial wall. It doesn't have to end here, is what I'm saying. We can train you on how to handle this. We can train you on how to handle this. And we can train you on how to handle this. We have answers to all of these questions. People drive for hours to come here. Does that make sense? So you're home. What I'm saying is You're home. You're free of this nonsense. Does it suck to learn it? Yeah. Have I been guilty of, breaking some people's, perfect little world apart every once in a while? Sure, I guess. But I'd rather be awake and aware than asleep at the wheel. You know what I mean? Because you cannot avoid this stuff unless you know it's there. Can you? Your kids will no longer be on ADD meds. Your aunts and uncles and cousins and your grandkids will not be sucked into this crap unless you want them to be. Only you can make that decision. So by no means are we saying, oh, you have to come off all your meds right away overnight and blah, 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 and, get rid of all this crap. No, we can't say that. They'll throw me in a FEMA camp faster than they'll throw you in there for not getting a vaccine. But here's what I can do. We can train you to the point and get you healthy enough to where they legally can't keep you on the crap anymore. Right? All right. So that's the uplifting. That's the doom and boom at the end of the doom and gloom. How's that sound? Yeah. You guys have a choice. You guys have options. So you can learn and get out from under this mess, and you can tell others how to do it. Because there's a new sheriff in town. Okay. So any questions before we break? Any questions? And if you're around, if you're a new person here, you got a bunch of new people. If you want a tour of kind of what we do and how we do it, what is this place? What do? We do chiropractic, laser, percussion, foot spas, saunas, ionic detoxification. We do pulse electromagnetic field therapy. Want to know what that'll do to your brain? That'll restore some neurotransmitter pathways, won't it? Right? Tons of stuff we do here you've never heard of. Tons of stuff you've never been allowed to even know about. So there's a new sheriff in town. So we're going to give away a couple things. Questions real quick. Anybody have a question? Somebody had a question in here a minute ago.
Well, it was with the
microphone.
It was about the vaccinations, like the early polio and smallpox vaccines. Are you saying that they weren't needed? I mean, look at all the children.
We'll cover that after the cameras. I'm not talking about shots on the camera. Who else? Yeah, that's a very good question, though. Very good question. That's not something we're going to answer for you tonight, but that's a very good question. What else?
I was told when I used to sell spray vitamins that anxiety is a lack of B6. So as I'm learning this information, well, yeah, it is, but like you say, you can't isolate vitamins.
Right.
So you have to get it from your foods.
Right.
Which it all leads back to the basics.
Doesn't it? Yeah, you can't. I know a lot of people probably, when they come to these chemical imbalance classes and stuff, they're like, I just want them to tell me. We get people like this all the time. I just want them to tell me which vitamins to take so I can go to Walmart and buy them. It ain't that simple. It's so much more complex than that. Because like Janice said, if you bought B1 or B2 or B4 or B5 or B6 or B7, 9, 12, separately, they're all synthetically, you can't isolate them. Nature doesn't isolate the B vitamins. Nature doesn't isolate vitamin C. Nature doesn't isolate magnesium. Sorry. Nature doesn't isolate calcium. So all you women taking calcium supplements for strong bones, sign that up as the same crap that you, same lie right here. Your calcium carbonate that you bought at Walmart, it's not helping your bones. It's giving you cancer. It's giving you cataracts and arthritis. That's what it's doing. So we've all been fed a lie. We've all been fed. Oh, and magnesium for your restless leg syndrome. What I'm saying is this. I know, I Google, people come in, they go, I got restless leg syndrome. I just need to take magnesium. It's not that simple. Magnesium, it's a mineral, and you can't isolate it. Where's the magnesium tree that you would pick the magnesium supplements off of? It doesn't exist. You have to get it from your food, right? So even when people are supplementing megadose synthetic nutraceuticals of 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, you're treating yourself with a safe drug. Created by who? Pharmaceutical companies. We've all been sold the bill of goods, folks. It's not just you guys, but you have to get out there and tell other people, see? It's not as simple as just, what supplement do I need to take for this? What supplement do I need to take for that? That's protocol thinking. That's supplement for a symptom thinking that you developed from being taught drug for a disease. And who taught you there's a drug for every disease? These guys. So you're thinking there's a supplement for every symptom. It's the same thinking. It's flawed in both respects, right? That's just wisdom right there. That's just simplicity. That's the simplicity of it. So any other questions? Yeah, but it's simple, like Janice said. It's so simple. It goes right back to the basics. 6,000 years of people living and dying and breathing and having babies. What'd they do? They ate real food. Only in the last 100 years have we been faking it. It's so easy. It's too simple for people. It's too easy. It's too cheap. Well, eating good food, is so expensive. You tried a chemo diagnosis? You tried a cancer diagnosis? Tell me it's expensive. And when you're in the hospital at the oncology center, you can walk right down the hall and get Starbucks or McDonald's. Am I right or am I right? I'm right. I'm serious. The crap that caused it, they're selling it to you 10 feet down from... And piping the odor down so that your taste buds, they know, it's neurology, they know it. Does that make sense? Okay, any other questions? Anything on Facebook? Anything else? Good. All right, we're going to give away some free stuff. So next week, essential oils, 11/9, November 9th, Darkness to Light, Exposing the Lies, Part 8. We will see you right here, same time, same place. Dr. Brett Spralin, Divine Design, Natural Health. Woo! All right. And let's give away some free stuff.